So you are a struggling physician in the early 1800s. You are struggling to make your ends meet. You are angry and desperate for money. And you see how evil the other healers are. What do you do next? Do you follow in their footsteps, try to be them, and get lost in an already saturated industry? Or will you create an alternative form of medicine that is so different from conventional that people are automatically drawn to your idea and earn money by being the monopoly? You will, of course, choose the latter. You then, in an attempt to defeat the evils of regular medical practices, research plant-based alternatives. You, in your desperate attempt to prove the regular medicine wrong, which back then was eviler than you can imagine. There are certain practices like bloodletting, cutting bones off, grinding the skulls of dead people, mixing it with alcohol and using it to treat epilepsy, or using mercury to heal anything from constipation to parasites and sometimes even depression. And as expected, it didn't rid you of the disease, but instead it got rid of you. All of these practices, though very ineffective, were very popular because people are gullible and the physicians took advantage of it. So you toiled away and researched a lot of plants until you stumbled upon cinchona, which now you know as quinine, an effective anti-malarial medicine. It produced side effects that mimic malaria but are much milder and also cured malaria. So considering this as a win, you then decide to publish it. You cite Edward Jenner, who then created the vaccine for smallpox by using cowpox, which was much milder but produced enough immunity against variola virus and prevented the development of smallpox despite being exposed to smallpox multiple times. This was, as you can imagine, groundbreaking research and also developed a concept of like cures like, which is the founding principle of homeopathy. In simple terms, it's like giving laxatives to a patient suffering with diarrhea to cure, well, the diarrhea. You see where this is going, don't you? Anyways, you then decide to start a whole business around such fads, except you dilute the medicine to such an extent that there is not a lot of it left. And then you decide to sell it anyways, because people buy it, of course. So how do you sell your medicine? It's not easy, you can't just sell it just like that. So what you need to do is to publish a book to prove that it works better than conventional medicine. This is what Samuel Hahnemann, a German physician, back in early 1800s did in his book, The Organon of the Healing Art. Because of course, anything that is published as a book is true, isn't it? He then produced to demonize regular medicine and call it allopathy or the Western medicine, which is bad. He then minted millions and then died a millionaire in France. So now you might be wondering, if he minted millions and made a lot of money, which means that his medications work, right? Well, let us take a deeper dive into how these medications work, or in this instance, do not work. So according to the books, the drugs are diluted and potentialized to make them more effective. So what is this dilution I'm talking about? Well, it is, and I quote according to the textbook, dilution refers to the process of adding a small amount of substance to a large amount of dilutant such as water or alcohol to reduce its strength. And then the process is repeated several times to achieve a high degree of dilution, while potentialization refers to the process of shaking the dilutant or the diluted liquid to increase its therapeutic effect. The process is repeated with each subsequent dilution, creating what is now known as the potentialized homeopathic therapy. The belief is that the more dilute the remedy, the greater its therapeutic effect. Doesn't it sound crazy? Well, it does, and it gets even worse. It claims to stimulate the body's natural healing process. Put simply, the drug is diluted so much, in fact, that at the end, very little of the active substance is left. And at certain higher dilutions, it's like adding 2 or 3 drops of medicine in Bay of Bengal and then expecting there to be therapeutic effect if you drink a spoonful of the water in Bay of Bengal. Well, as you know, the only thing you get after drinking a spoonful of salty water is you throw up. In other words, well, the sugar pills they prescribe is just like eating regular sugar. Not a lot of use now, is there? To demonstrate its ineffectiveness, here's a small clip from the popular TED Talk by James Randi. He demonstrates it very clearly. Now, okay, that was anecdotal evidence. Okay, now let us look at what the research says about homeopathy. Well, a systematic review and meta-analysis published in the Lancet found no evidence that supports the use of homeopathy for any medical condition. In 2010, a review of clinical trials of homeopathy for various health conditions found that homeopathic remedies were no more effective than a placebo. A 2014 study where the systematic review and meta-analysis of homeopathic treatment for fibromyalgia also found no evidence of its effectiveness. Now, for the less informed of you, might be asking me, what are meta-analysis? What are they? What is that type of research? Well, if you look at the pyramid of hierarchy of evidence, you can see that meta-analysis are the highest level of evidence that you can have in any scientific research, while at the very bottom is the anecdotal or personal experiences, which are basically homeopathic medications at the bottom of the evidence pole. Now, you might be wondering, it's just sugar pills, right? Isn't it harmless? Well, it is much more harmful than you think. Now you might be wondering, oh, if that's harmful, aren't conventional drugs even more harmful? Well, there might be certain side effects. However, the doctor considers all the effects, considers what the patient wants before prescribing the medications, so that the chances of him suffering side effects are pretty low. However, homeopathy, there is a chance that people might not get timely cure. Let me show you a couple of examples. Okay. As you can see in this article, homeopathic doctor told to pay 3.5 lakhs, and here 1800 studies conclude that homeopathy doesn't work. Yes, so now you might ask, why is it so popular in India? Well, there are a multitude of reasons. Let us look at a few of them. Cultural beliefs. Well, homeopathy has a long history in India and it is considered a traditional form of medicine by many people. This cultural belief, combined with its widespread availability, makes it a popular choice. Cost. Well, homeopathic medications are generally less expensive than conventional treatments, which makes them more accessible to people with limited financial resources. However, it is changing with the advent of generic medications. The lack of regulation. Yes, there is a severe lack of regulation in India which allows for the sale of such unproven and potentially dangerous remedies. Marketing. Homeopathic companies and practitioners often make exaggerated claims about the benefits of homeopathy. You might have seen certain billboards saying they cure cancer, they cure kidney disease, they cure this and everything and all that. Also contributes to its popularity. And personal experience. Some people might have had bad experience with regular medicine, the normal medicine, and because of which they tend to bias towards homeopathy, despite its lack of scientific evidence and its effectiveness. So, what does homeopathy do that is much better than regular medications, you might ask? Well, in homeopathy, the patient and doctor establish a very deep personal connection. This leaves people with extremely good impression. The doctors are kinder and more compassionate. Most of the healing comes from positive patient-doctor relationship, as we know. And then they suggest lifestyle changes along with the drugs, or the supposed drugs, to help with their performance. Which for the most part, if you do those same lifestyle changes, you don't even need any other medication. Now you might be getting angry at me for being biased and that I don't know how homeopathy works. There is a multitude of research explaining the benefits of homeopathy. Okay, well, let us look at the research. What does it say? Now, according to assessing the magnitude of reporting bias in trials of homeopathy, which is a cross-sectional study and a meta-analysis performed in 2022, found that between 2000 and 2013, only 46% of registered randomized controlled trials, you might have heard this with COVID vaccines, on homeopathy were published. Large proportions of homeopathic trials remain unpublished, about 38% of them, or unregistered, which are 50% of them. And the 25% of the 46% registered trials are generally altered to change the outcome of the medications and to make them seem better than they are. They also concluded that registration of published trials was so infrequent and didn't publish enough evidence that it affects the validity of the evidence of the homeopathic literature and may overestimate the true treatment effect of homeopathic remedies. You know all of these. However, you don't care now, do you? You have already made a ton of profit out of gullible people who are less aware of the scientific method. And now you are a part of the huge $3.5 billion industry, which is growing, and it is growing fast. And now you are swimming in money. So you won while the patients lost. So as a closing remark, let me leave you with a part of the interview of Dr. Shantanu Abhyankar, who was an homeopath who was converted to a regular medicine.
And scrutiny and complete studies which are cross-checked is the core. Many traditional medicines are a part of modern medicine now. Reserpine, which is derived from Sarpagandha, which is an Ayurvedic medicine. Artemisur, which is a Chinese herbal medicine, which is used against malaria, a very, very effective drug, which is recently introduced. Even Kshara Sutra, that's a method of surgery to treat fissure in ano. It finds mention in the Love and Belly's textbook of surgery, which is the textbook of surgery for all the medical courses across the world. It's a very, very respected textbook. So you see how it works? When something is proved to be useful, it automatically becomes part of modern medicine, mainstream medicine. It's no longer complementary. It's no longer alternative.
Shortcomings has proved itself time and time again that it works by the help of clinical trials. And according to my opinion, there is no place for scams such as homeopathy to exist in modern times. Thank you, and if you like this video, please subscribe and share it with as many people as you can. Everybody must know the truth. And soon enough, I'll be releasing a similar video in Hindi and Telugu to further help people understand why homeopathy should be taken with a pinch of salt. No, actually, a huge tablespoon of salt. Thank you.